like that. But I have 10%, so we'll see how long it lasts.
Hey guys, sorry, so we're trying to do an Instagram.
We're trying to do a whole lot.
Yeah, we're trying to do Instagram live, and it's not working on my iPad, so we're going on Richard's phone. So there we go. Okay, so bring on the questions, everybody. What do we have? I have my very special microphone, as you guys can tell everywhere.
It's not a romantic date.
There we go.
We're just friends.
Yeah, exactly. It hasn't been long enough. I mean, he's married now anyway, so it's not. Yeah, I mean, I lost it. That's what happens. Okay, so questions. What's up, everybody? I need a question to get me started. Get me on a rant or something. Just talk about dorsiflexion, something. I mean,
Instagram's winning by. Oh no, Instagram's taking way over. They're at 27.
Liars.
We're only at 17.
Liars what? What liars?
Liars.
About what? Okay. Good books to learn about internal external torque. Steven. There are no books because I haven't written them yet. So this is your answer. The external torque, it's been talked about, but nobody. I have a very hard time reading about internal torque anywhere, honestly, which is kind of funny because this is something you see for example, kicking, punching, sprinting a lot. So I guess the one place where you hear about internal torque is for sprinters, right? They tell you not to create external torque. But honestly, reading about it, I've never read anything about it. Everything I talk about is the stuff that I came up with, basically. Those were my things. Write one already? Yes, I will write a book about it. It's just like, it's not like I don't have shit to do here and there, by the way. But yes, I'm gonna get to it. Say hi to Willem. Will do. Because we're on Instagram Live at the same time. Excuse me, we're getting fancy. Mike is asking internal torque on the kettlebell swing. Yes. So unless you're swinging a very, very heavy kettlebell and you're trying to throw it in the air, like World Strongest Man's style, that would be external torque, because that would be toward power, right? But if we're talking CrossFit, like swinging anything past 5 reps, more like in the flow state, like, you know, strength endurance kind of thing, then yes, it's totally a internal torque movement. So as any hinge is internal torque, right? But when you try to throw the kettlebell overhead, it's actually a squat pattern because it's like a jump pattern. That would be external torque. But so internal kettlebell swings that usually we talk about it, which is for reps, that is internal torque. Someone said liars, I still don't know about what. But
about us dating.
Oh, don't. His wife is right over there, man. She's Latina, okay? Just don't mess with all this. Yeah, she's laughing, but trust me, I know her.
She won't be laughing later on tonight.
Yeah, exactly. I'm good, but he's in trouble, so I'm just saying. Any plans on coming to Africa? I would love to go back to Africa to host a workshop. Actually, we've been asked to come to South Africa a bunch of times, so we might come to South Africa. That would be cool. I haven't been back in Africa since I left 27 years ago. So I would love to go back to Africa. How do you work on adductor mobility without weakening internal torque? Ooh, that's actually a good question. My goodness. That's Herbert Tanner. How do you work on adductor mobility without weakening internal torque? So internal torque has nothing to do with the adductor, actually. It has to do with the inside head of the hammy. So I'm answering over there because that's who asked the question. Adductor have nothing to do with internal torque. Adductor has, is for to do adduction. Yeah, that'll be easier.
Keep following. There we go.
Oh, there, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, there is perfect. Yeah, there we go. Awesome.
Bam.
So, adductor has nothing to do with internal torque, right? Adductor is for adduction, whereas internal torque is rotation-based. Adduction is more like displacement, really, than it is about rotation. So, by the way, let's define mobility first, right? Mobility is range of motion while maintaining torque. So, whenever you're going to work toward those adductors, you want to work toward internal torque. So as you work the adductors, unless you're using a specific machines, you are going to work toward internal torque as well. So one should not exclude the other, right? So that should not be a problem. Now, if you're talking about mobility as in flexibility, which is doing the split, that's a whole different ball game. Like doing the split, for example, will not help you with internal torque, let's say on the sumo, One has nothing to do with the other. So again, we have to make sure we're talking about mobility or flexibility. If you're talking about mobility, adductor mobility will help the internal torque. If you're talking about flexibility, that's another altogether conversation on that one. Bent over rows, external torque at the shoulder, internal at the hip. Okay, so bent over rows. Yeah, it depends a little bit. If we're gonna use the latissimus dorsi on the bent over rows, right, then that means we will go to our external torque, so we would be external at the shoulder to engage the latissimus dorsi, right? If we're gonna go internal at the hip, okay, so that means when I lower the weight on a barbell row, so on the way down, I'm gonna go toward a hinge, right? I'm gonna go internal torque, loading the inside head of my hammies and my external obliques in that case. And then when I pull up toward below the belly button, then I'm gonna go into external torque from the hip in order to bring up more like a squat pattern, basically on the way up. And I'm gonna try to load toward my latissimus dorsi, internal oblique, glute med, outside of the quads, and long head of the biceps. So on the way down, it would be internal torque everywhere. So I'm going to use my teres major to lower the weight, right? Use my pec, use the short head of the bicep, use internal torque, so inside head of the hammy. And then on the way up, once I start pulling to find strength, I'm going to go toward external torque at the hip and to engage the latissimus dorsi. So it's internal torque on the way down, external torque on the way up.
Chambers.
I'm having a hard time trying to shoulder press while maintaining internal torque. It makes sense on bench press, but one click overhead. Any tips on Brian Chambers?
We were just talking about that the other day, though. That we should the bottom part of the press.
Yeah.
We need to start changing that definition.
Yes. Okay. So we have to see if do you have a problem maintaining internal torque on the top of the press. I'm guessing that's what you mean, right? At the top of the press. In that case, that would be because you don't have a lat. As in the teres major, sorry. I say latissimus. When I say lat, sometimes I mean latissimus dorsi, sometimes I mean teres major. Sorry guys, I'm used to saying lats all the time. If your teres major does not have the mobility to keep that tension overhead, you're going to lose internal torque, right? So it's two things. We have to make sure your pec have the mobility to stay engaged while your arms are fully overhead, and same thing with the teres major. When the teres major disengages, people have a tendency to go here because they can't keep it right there. So most of the time you make them go forward, and if they want to keep pushing up, then they're going to lose the torque. So a lot of time has to do with the lats, as in the teres major, that cannot keep the mobility going, and so that's why you will struggle at the top of the shoulder press. Obviously on the bench press, you won't have that problem because the angle from here to the teres major is so short. Most people do not have a problem mobility issue because the angle between the arm and the torso is so small. But as you increase the angle, it gets harder and harder and harder. Cecile, hello. How do you feel and see the difference between external and internal oblique when creating tension? Haha. We get pushing out for external, but what about the internal obliques? That's a very good question, Cecile. Yes, the internal obliques are much harder to find, right? So whenever you cannot find an oblique, that means that's the first chain, right? The first arch. That means you're going to have to go out. So for example, if you can't find the external obliques for whatever reason, we might have to go toward arch this way. So maybe finding the inside head of the hammy or the lower abs. For example, most of the time when people can't feel the external obliques, I will engage the lower abs. The lower abs will make them feel the external obliques usually. And if it's even worse than that, then we have to go further and further down. So for the internal obliques, what I find is that if you make people feel their glute med, usually they can do that, right? And their latissimus dorsi at the same time, that's going to do the job, because that's basically in order to connect the latissimus dorsi and the glute med, your internal obliques are going to have to fire. So if I get both of them, glute med and and latissimus dorsi to contract, you will have to engage internal obliques as well. So that doesn't mean you're going to feel it right away, but that's a good start. And eventually, as you get more efficient with this, you should not. It will come about basically. But yes, it is much harder to find the internal obliques than it is the external, because the external you push out at 45 degrees, even though some people cannot do that. But so when you can't, just go just keep going away from it, and in that case, the glute med and the latissimus dorsi should do the trick.
So
Hey
let's
Patrick.
go one-
Okay,
one-
so
one.
let's go with
Do you believe
Aaron
sandbag
and
squats?
Cetus. Do you believe sandbag squats can be used as a corrective exercise for poor back squat mechanics? Yes and no. Okay, so let's talk about the back squat mechanics for a second. So first of all, you guys are gonna have to give me what is a back squat in nature, right? If we take the barbell away, which has been around for 150 years, right? 200,000 years of evolution. What is a back squat? Okay, what is the? By the way, let's start with what is a squat pattern. Okay, the only squat pattern I can find in nature is jumping, like sitting at the bottom of a squat in order to, I don't know, like, you know, go to the restroom or whatever. Is not. Yeah, but you don't need power. I mean, if you need that much power, maybe fibers would be a better. When we talk about internal torque, yeah, we can talk about internal torque. But at the bottom of that squat, you don't need power, right? So we are talking about a movement pattern to create power. That is the jumping, right? That's the only thing I can think of the squat pattern is jumping. So to jump, you do not break parallel, though, right? So any pattern that requires power. I cannot think of one where you need to break parallel. I don't think there is below parallel in nature. Every time you need to lift a sandbag, your hips shoot up, right? I can't find a position where you need power from below parallel. So you guys find me one, I can't. And you do a lunge, you're not breaking parallel. You jump, you're not breaking parallel. Anytime you lift something, your hips are always higher than your knees. So outside of the back squat, I can't find a movement where you need power from below parallel. So the back squat, just like the barbell, is man-made. Okay, so that does not fit the 200,000 years of evolution that got us here. That doesn't mean you cannot do it. It just means it changes the movement patterns of the human body, right? So now we have to understand what the mechanics are for back squat. That means from parallel up is a jumping pattern, is external torque, right? Anything outside of that is internal torque. That way, when you descend on the squat, it's internal torque. When you bounce off the bottom, it's internal torque. And when you break parallel and you go into that loading position where you would normally jump from, then you go external torque and activate the internal obliques and all that stuff. So it's a very, very specific exercise. But the point is there is two patterns to the squat, not one. We have to stop saying external torque. That is true from pass parallel up like you would load on a jump. But everything else is actually internal torque. So it's not one movement pattern, it's two. And so in that sense, the sandbag can help because the sandbag keeps you into internal torque. If you look at a heavy sandbag, you're going to come down in internal torque, you're going to go up with your hips first in internal torque, and then when you break the parallel, then you're going to use that squat pattern like when you try to put a stone over a bar, right? You go hips first, and then again, your hips go past parallel, and then you go over the bar. So it's, if we ask a kid to lift something off the floor, they'll go into a hinge, and then once their hips are at a certain level, they'll then go into putting their hips under it just so they can lift. Just like when you see strongmen lift a stone, basically. And so the barbell back squat has to mimic that because that's what evolution gave us. So that means internal torque on the way down, you come off the bottom internal torque, and then you activate external torque. So in that sense, the sandbag can help us with that, because that's what the sandbag does. The sandbag naturally will keep you without the right movement pattern. And so in that sense, I would say yes, the sandbag can help you correct the mechanics of the back squat. Patrick, during your travels and experiences since initial seminar, yeah, fuck me. How has Strong Fit as Julian evolved? Jesus Christ, man. He has evolved. Strong Fit has evolved so much. Well, it's not me. The more I travel, the more center I get. That's the best way I can explain it. I found peace doing this. Like, everybody told me that after 6 weeks I'd be burned out from all the seminars and traveling and everything, and actually the exact opposite has happened. I am better, I'm happier now than I've ever been. I have a life I never thought I would have that is way past any dreams I ever had. Honestly, I do good. Not I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I have a great relationship with a number of people that we met. I got to see many different cultures, many different people. The more people I see, the more culture I experience, the more I see the patterns, the better I get. I'm a highly creative mind, and so this has fed me more than everything else I've done. I was born for this. Like, I've gained so much out of all that trip. The more I do this, the more center I am. So I'll do this for as long as I can. And StrongFit has evolved a lot because as I get better, that creative side of me allows me to come up with new stuff more often, of better quality. Actually, I'm getting smarter as I go in this, because I can really apply myself to my craft. And that's something that has also happened during this trip, is I am fully devoted to my craft now. So I have a very organized schedule in a weird way, so that every day I can think about getting better at what I do, so I can share more information and all that stuff. So I've evolved more since we started than I think I did in the last 10 years. I would say, even though I had like 6 different lives, the last, since July, I felt I've taken a quantum leap forward personally in my own personal growth out of doing all this. So I was born for this. I'll do this as long as I can. And so, and StrongFit follows that, because we came up with a lot of cool stuff, especially lately in the last 2 months, and we've been experimenting with it a lot. So that's why we're not releasing all of it, because we're still playing with it. But I think like a lot of the stuff we came up with will.
It's going to change everything.
Yeah, it's going to change everything. I really think that doesn't mean
you don't need to be humble.
Yeah, no, I think it will change everything. It's just, I don't know if people will actually listen. That's the problem. Is I'm trying to find better ways to communicate, to give that knowledge, because it changes so much. Like, it's bound to hurt some people's business, and I'm directly thinking physios and chiropractors. And so they most likely will fight on a lot of this. And so I'm trying to get better at communicating the knowledge, so people don't feel threatened, because for a lot of them it'll change everything. Like the mobility stuff we've been working on in an active way lately for the thoracic spine, going through the obliques and everything, has been, even for me, for my training, has been insane. Like, I've been playing with deadlifts, and I don't remember 4 or 5 things that light ever. It's like it's just popping off the floor. I get no pressure on my back whatsoever, because it's also the obliques. I think it's going to change a lot of stuff, honestly. Okay. Does lack of external oblique strength activation causes shark fins in a deadlift? That's for Mike Powell. Yes. I mean, one of the reasons, obviously. But yes, it can cause sharp fins on a deadlift, because if you don't have the external obliques, right, that means you cannot do internal torque. That means you're going to go toward external torque, and external torque means activation of the lumbar spine, the erectors that cover the lumbar spine. So when I say lumbar spine, you guys understand, I mean the erectors that are covering the lumbar spine. And those are usually thicker, if you look at an anatomy book, and that's what develops. So that develops so much because you are using external torque on a hinge pattern, which forces the lumbar spine to do most of the work, and that's where the hypertrophy comes from. And so what we want is, we want the erectors covering the thoracic spine to develop, right? And for you to hinge using the glute major and the external obliques, which would take pressure away from the internal obliques and the, let's say, lumbar spine, you guys get it? So that you don't develop them as much. But so yes, there's a direct correlation between the size of those overdeveloped and did we just lose it?
No, we lost Facebook. We're good on. We're still live on Instagram.
We're still live. Okay, we're still live. Sorry, we're getting in and out with internet. I don't know why we're not lucky with internet. So yes, there is a correlation between the size of the erectors, like that, just at the the lumbar spine portion, and the lack of external obliques. And so we're going to release a video about external oblique work. We're going to call it the external oblique opener. And that's one I've been playing with for years, like for the last 15 years. And I think it's a good one. Wait, Stevenson, did we answer?
Green.
Oh, hey James, how are you? Yes, we are well, we're doing good. Still trying to fix pronation on my right leg. Okay? Always seems to want to point out from walking squats, is there a specific exercise I should be concentrating on? I'm going to go back to LA. I need to see you again to take a look, because you've done so much since the last time I saw you. I need to see you move again so we can see what all the difference is. Pronation on your right leg. What do you mean by that exactly? What's pronating? Like you're talking about the ankle? Tell me exactly what it is, so we can talk about this.
So we're going to have to go way down to do that.
Oh, it's okay. Are you guys, Glenn is asking, are you guys going to be at the game this year, visiting or having any sessions? I need to go to Dubai, so I don't think I'll have time to go to the games.
But the week before we'll be in Minneapolis.
We'll be in Minneapolis the week before, so if you guys show up early, you'll see us. But because we have a seminar on a Coaches Week in Minneapolis, and after that I got to go to Dubai, so I won't be at the games this year.
What's up, Johnny? Nice. And then we're with
Colosam. You suggest to attack the rower using the same hinge mechanics? That's a good question. Internal torque on the catch, external torque on the pull for someone with a disc bulging issue. So that's a very good question about rowing, and I cannot get a straight answer as to which one is the first pull on the rower. So actually Greg in Vienna is starting to work with a rower right now, and I would love to be able to attack that particular issue because I don't know. It seems to me like if you're going to crank on it really hard, you would want to go toward external torque, but if you go toward flow, you want to go internal torque. So I don't know if that first pull is a hinge or a squat pattern. So I am not good at rowing mechanics, but I'm going to work on that. So in the meantime, if you have a bulging disc, which I'm guessing is L5, the way you're asking, that means you would want to go internal torque and external obliques. So if you have a bulging disc in L5, that means you don't want to load that lumbar spine too much, right? That means you're going to have really good external obliques, and you're going to have to work the shit out of that internal torque and get decent inside head of the hammies, right? Because that will serve your spine. If you go back to external torque and using the lumbar spine, that bulging disc is not going to get any better, that's for sure. So you have to learn to hinge properly anyway and develop those external obliques, right? Pilates has plenty of exercise for that, and we're going to put a video very soon about it. T-Bone Blues, when are you guys coming home to the gym?
That's Travis. LA, July 1st, Travis.
Yeah.
We'll be back.
We're back in LA. How's your opinion on Brian Chambers? How's your opinion on barbell movement changed over the past 2 years? Well, actually, they haven't changed that much. I never thought it was a good idea to start with. And I'm even, well, in that sense, yes, I'm even more convinced that barbell movements are the easiest way to train, but that doesn't make it the best way. That is the easiest way to add weight. That is the easiest way to gauge how much weight you're using. And when they say gauge fitness and all that stuff, yeah, the easiest way is not always the best way. The barbell has been around for 150 years, right? Evolution has been taking us where we are for about 200,000 years. So awkward object win every time. We've been lifting objects within our hands for the last 200,000 years. And here comes a barbell that puts the weight outside, right, of the hand. That changes the torque from internal to external. So the barbell is not a functional movement, right? I never thought it was, but my opinion is even more in that toward that than it was before. Like I think the barbell, of course, we can use a barbell, but that fascination that we have with it is misplaced. It is the easiest way to test certain things, to add weight, because we can add like, a pound at a time. It is the most convenient way for your gym, and it's the cheapest thing because you can do a squat, a deadlift, and a press with it, but it's not the best way, right? There are plenty of other things, dumbbells being one of them, by the way, out there that are far better for people than the barbell. So in that sense, I'm even more convinced about it now than I was then. Carl Pittman, best way to alleviate low back pain. Oh, come on. From very quad dominant movement patterns with many low back injuries over years, low back constantly tight and poor hip internal and external. Okay, so do you have anything more complex you want to ask me? You're gonna have, so usually, because I have not seen you move, is a learning to hinge properly is a big one, right? So learning internal torque. If you are quad dominant, I'm guessing you are outside quad dominant, that's what you mean. That means you are going toward external torque on everything. So you're going to have to learn when and where to use internal torque, right? How to use internal torque and which muscle are part of the internal torque chain. If you use the wrong muscle, you cannot do internal torque, right? Internal torque involves certain muscle. If you use another one, you are in the external torque chain. So the key is to learn which muscle you need to use to create internal torque, right? Get very efficient at that, and that will allow you, as you work them and they get stronger, that will naturally increase your mobility, because that's what mobility is, range of motion while creating tension. So mobility is about strength, not flexibility. And as you do that, you're going to be able to create internal torque that should take the pressure off your lower back, because your lower back is that lumbar spine part, right? Which consists in external torque. So the main thing I want you to work on right now is the external obliques. The external obliques will trigger the internal torque better than anything else, and should start to alleviate the pain. And then after that, there's a number of things that you need to work on.
Go drag sleds for a long time.
Richard, that's for you.
Oh, they're asking me questions?
Yeah.
Are you following a specific program, writing your own? Where could I find idea of your trainings to be logged, to be found? I'm a little lost on how and when you program strongman movements. My programming is, right now it's more just experimentation than anything else. I've been working a lot more on decomposing movements and seeing if I can maintain strength while not doing the actual movement. So I haven't done back squats now since January. I haven't done, I snatched for the first time yesterday in like 2 months. So I just try and break down movements depending on how can I create the most amount of torque and how can I be stronger than Julian. And as long as I do that, I'm happy. So everything
is that are bigger than mine, so it's okay.
They are. Good, they are. It's not.
I thrive to keep people happy in life, so it's all good.
Yeah. You keep people happy, I'll have a bigger life. It works great.
Well, that's what you think. What happens when you wake up?
So it's all been decomposing movements. So I've been doing a lot of. I just started playing around with this one, doing like dumbbell Dimmel deadlifts for 60 seconds, and then after you do a minute of that, just consistently moving, pure hinge. Then you go into 5 aggressive high pull shrugs. You do 5 sets of that, it just wrecks you.
So those are metcons we're trying to, in a way, we're coming up with, but they're based on the chain, internal torque or external torque. So it's not really what you do, it's how you do it. So we've been doing a lot of that, but it's really based on the chain. So you have to be careful, like when to do things correctly.
Yeah, the strongman stuff right now we've been doing a lot more of it because we have the equipment, but we've been at global gyms quite a bit. So there's been a lot of leg pressing going on, a lot of hack squats, a lot of hammer curls and preacher curls. A lot of rows. I think mine are bigger. I think they measured.
Yeah, bring a tape.
We're measuring this.
We are measuring
this. Yeah, just trying to be strong. I've been doing a lot of breaking down the bench press. A lot of one-arm bench press to shoulder raises.
I like my bicep. There's a lot of hearts coming.
Yeah, but come on. It's not even a competition. It's not even close. Just have fun with your training. Experiment. That's all we've been doing for the last, since Australia now. It's been almost all experimentation on different supersets, different metcons, everything depending on the torque that we're going to and time under tension. So just experiment as much as you can, man.
Yeah, I've been working with obliques so much.
Experimenting.
You guys have to. You don't understand how much time we spend experimenting. That's how learning a craft works. You just try shit, it's learning a craft. You have to try every single thing. We do so much right now. It's all obliques, for example. But Frank is asking, when creating internal torque in a single leg deadlift, we see the foot collapse a lot, even with a big toe, little to heel pushes into the ground. How to fix this? Get better internal torque. Whenever people collapse, that means they're going toward adduction. That's not internal torque, so they're just not efficient at it yet. Just keep working at it, but just try to create internal torque, not adduction. It's not the same, right? Adduction is displacement. It takes time. It takes time. Like you just have to stick with it. Do long reps with a long tempo. Learn. Maybe just make your people pause at first. I kid you not, and find their hammies.
45 seconds for 1 rep.
Yeah, okay. The people that collapse like this, can they find their hammies, the inside head of their hammies on cue without any weight? Where you say just create internal torque, feel the inside head of your hammy cramping. Can they do that? Because if they can't, then they can't create torque efficiently. So I think the first step is finding the muscles, right? Yeah. And so pausing can help with that. I know it sounds, I say it all the time. Blacksmith training. You guys change how I view everything. Thank you. I wish I could go back to university with this knowledge. And tell them what? that they taught you wrong, that all those PhDs are incorrect in the way they look at stuff, I don't think you will have good success. Usually challenging the system is not something that happens fast, and it's surely not going to happen when you go at them with it, that's for sure. But trust me, yeah, so do I. Craig, what seminar dates are for Dubai? I don't know, last time we went there we had less than 20 people. So how about we get more people next time for Dubai? I'm going back there end of August. So I could do a seminar there.
For September, yeah.
No, August, because it's right after.
You go in beginning of August. End of August, we're in Austria.
Okay, so sorry. End of July then.
Yeah.
Because it's right after Minneapolis. So I'm going to Dubai end of July. End of July. So we can do a Dubai seminar then. Because the word translate to a deadlift. I don't know, man. I honestly I don't know. I would think so. I would think it's an internal torque, but I'm not entirely sure. I've seen a lot of people engaging the lumbar spine first. So in that case, that'd be a squat pattern. Deadlift, which means you go through the glute major and the external obliques. Is that what you use when you pull first? So which obliques? That would be a good question. Like the good rowers out there, which obliques do you use when you first pull? Are you using the external, right, by your six-pack, or are you using the internal obliques that are toward the glute mid? Which one do you go first, external obliques or internal obliques? That would tell us which pattern it is, right? Honestly, I don't know. But I want to know, so I'm going to go toward it.
Thoughts on regional events? They're awesome.
Moaz, Egypt. Well, thoughts on regional events. I think they're great, and I'll tell you why. The athletes will adapt to whatever we make them do, so it doesn't matter. They're CrossFitters, they'll make everything work. What I'm really happy about is the fact that it's going to change the way gyms program for their regular people for the next year. So for the next year, we're going to see people far less concerned about the barbell and starting to do dumbbell workouts and making people fitter, but in a more balanced way. And that makes me very, very, very happy. I know this will reflect on every CrossFit gym around the world for the next year into better programming. Instead of doing snatches and butterfly pull-ups all the time, we're finally going to get to unilateral work, like I've always asked, all that stuff. So that makes me happy, not for the athlete, that makes me happy for what it means for normal people, for all over the world, for CrossFit for the next year. So I think that's awesome in that sense. Richard, your podcast with the Mind Muscle guys was awesome. Everyone here should listen to it. It was cool, and
came over on Instagram.
Did you touch it?
No, my phone died. I hope they can turn to.
Okay, so let me go back there. 1 second, we need to go back to Instagram.
Thank you. I realized that I cussed a lot, and I need to watch my language. No, no, I did.
Why?
And I say so on and so forth way too much.
I do that too.
Yeah, so I learned new things about myself. But thank you. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Hopefully it brought some form of inspiration. What's up, Raphael?
Hey, Raphael. And back on there.
Is it on?
Yeah.
We lost all the questions then?
Yes, we did. Oh, shit.
There we go.
Okay, so we have...
Quique, trabajo para ti. Agarra el teléfono.
Yeah, perfect. You guys have no idea how we're making this work, but it's awesome. Quique, can you take a picture of this? Because we need to see how we're making this work.
Awesome. Yeah. Who has a better beard? If I grow my beard out, I have a better beard.
How is that even a question? Of course, me. How is that even a question?
Yours is all
you guys
uneven.
Have such weird. Exactly.
It's white and gray.
Exactly.
Brown.
Which makes it looks way better. It's uneven. Exactly. Whiskey. Yeah. No, is that whiskey?
No, it's tequila.
It's tequila.
Don Julio.
Actually, Richard is gonna climb. We're gonna all go.
Yes.
He's gonna climb the mountain where he got hurt the first time. So we're going back out there.
It's gonna be good.
Yep. So anybody wants to join? Bring it on.
December.
Any plans to come back to the east coast of the US, George? Yes.
Miami,
June. First of all, and we are going back to New York as well, which is most likely November or December. I have to talk to Chris Guerrero out of CrossFit Westchester, but most likely we'll do it in November, December, I guess. Sorry guys, we lost all the questions on Instagram, so if you can post them again, because Richard's phone died, so we need all the questions that we did not answer again, please.
How do you recommend, oh I love this, how do you guys recommend building strength in your lats and mid traps? Oh, it's so good. In regards to being able to safely handle heavy weight while snatching.
Are you trolling me?
Active Life Center.
Yeah. Have you watched any of my videos? I'm just curious. How would I do that? I would do the overhead yoke carry. I would do a lot of rope pulls.
Yes. Lat pull downs too. Why not?
Lat pull downs too, but rope pulls and overhead carries will do the job. Ever coming to Indiana?
We're gonna be in Minneapolis. Isn't that
We're
close
going to
enough?
Minneapolis. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Lushville, I'm struggling to pull myself up a rope even with my legs, but I can do 10 strict chest to bar pull-ups. Please help. Interesting. So most likely you do chest to bar pull-ups because you're going toward external torque, right? You arch, which you engage your latissimus dorsi and your internal obliques, and that's power. So it allows you to go up. The problem when you go with a rope is you're going to be here. It's not the latissimus dorsi anymore. It's the teres major. It's the pec. It's the short head of the bicep. Now you're in internal torque chain. And so your external torque chain works, but your internal torque chain does not work as well, and this is why you have such a problem on the rope pull. So on the rope climb. So what you do is start with a rope pull, right? And then that will build the necessary muscle in the internal torque chain. In the meantime, that means you need to work the teres major, so do lat pull downs. You need to work the short head of your bicep, that will help you. And the pec activation as well. And without the pec activation, the entire arch will collapse and you'll never be able to do rope climb anyway. So pec activation, cable crossover, right? Lat pull downs, short head of the bicep, do rope pulls, do all the internal torque chain work.
This one, since you study from Timothy.
Since you study philosophy, engineering, and psychology for the Strong Fit method, do you study animals and their movement? That's a very good question. I used to do a lot of that when I was doing jiu-jitsu. Like we mimicked animals' movement, and we did a lot of that. But I did not study them in that aspect very precisely. No, I've mostly done engineering toward leverage, toward just mechanics, and then toward biomechanics a lot. And then everything I study has been toward the human leverage. I did not spend as much time on animals. No, it's probably something I should do, but I haven't done it yet. I'm a weightlifter. My right hamstrings get more beat up than my left. Any suggestion on what may be causing my right hammy to go over time? Raj, is it your outside hammy or your inside hammy? That matters a lot. I need to know if it's outside head or inside head, because one is internal torque, one is external torque. The outside head of your hammy is external torque, the inside head is internal torque. So depending which side works, which side doesn't, that will tell me. Otherwise, there is no such thing as the hamstrings. You're either inside head or outside head. Not the same. It's like there's no such thing as a biceps, right? It's short head of the bicep or long head of the bicep. It doesn't work out there. Someone say, hola Kike. There you go, you're famous.
You're famous, Kike.
So Norbert, question en français, mais vous pouvez répondre en anglais. So he says it's in French, but I can answer in English.
Oh, okay.
Je ne sais pas, entre l'effet entre la rotation externe et la rotation interne des hanches, squat et deadlift. Okay. So it doesn't know the difference between internal rotation. By the way, it's not rotation, it's torque. I said rotation at first and I was wrong, because that's not the way I was trying. I was trying to convey the idea of torque, not rotation. So that was my fault. But I don't say internal rotation, I say internal torque now, because the mistake was mine on that one. The difference between external torque and internal torque at the hips for the squat versus deadlift. I did so many videos on that, man. You need to go for the videos because that would take me an hour to answer. It's creating torque internal versus external torque. I did a lot of videos. I made a video about with Richard about the stiff leg deadlift, internal torque on YouTube. Watch that.
And the Jefferson squat.
And the Jefferson squat, right? That's the difference. Go to the gym, try. If you have any questions, then email us. Okay? But first you have to try. By the way, that works for everybody. If you're going to ask me a question or if you're going to criticize something, that means you have gone to the gym and try what you're going to criticize or ask me a question about for an hour multiple times. You have spent a few hours on the movements first you're going to ask me about or criticize me about. That has to be the rules. If you have not gone to the gym to try out the movement with the different variations, the way we explain it, and then try other way. If I see internal torque, go try external torque, go heavy, go light. If you have not tried all the variations, you have no right to ask me questions about it, and you have no right to criticize me about it. Okay? Because I get so many guys, like I have a guy who actually said that the lower back extension that I was doing could not engage the glute med. The one that I posted like a few days ago, right? And he said that you don't engage the glute med is only for adduction. I'm like, I don't know which book you're reading, dude, but did you ever go to the gym in your life and try a back extension with external torque? Because you guys can all try. I do not know anybody that would do a back extension with external torque and not feel their glute med. So go try first, motherfuckers. I'm just pissed at that guy.
When do you come back to Singapore? Soon.
We were just there. That's soon,
Yeah,
like a year. Soon. Yeah. Claudia, long process for rebuilding core after rupture appendix surgery. Yeah. Left side feels solid, but right side oblique still not. What is the best way to stabilize with torque exercises? You need to engage those external obliques first. So I would say Pilates has some good exercises, and then we're going to come up with a video about how to engage the external obliques and the low abs. The way I feel is the most efficient way to do so. We're going to call it the opener, but to me that'll be the best way to engage the external obliques, and then we're going to show this week, okay? And we'll do a vlog about it.
Lat pull downs are hard to find at CrossFit gym, but there's Globo gyms you can pay like $20 a year for.
Really? Okay. Brand. Yes. Rogue sells a pulley.
Count to 10.
Costs $20, right? You find a cable, costs $5,
Yeah.
right? You go to any used gym, you bring a bar, a metal bar with an end, and you have a lat pull down machine. You need a pulley, a cable, and some kind of a bar.
On your set.
That's it. And you have a lat pull down machine. Rogue sells one, by the way. And you can go to any used gym. I think you can buy the whole fucking thing for like $100. But otherwise, get a pulley, get a cable, get a bucket, right? You put kettlebells in the bucket. You hook the cable to the bucket. You put it around 2 pulleys. You take either 2 handles or you take a bar and you get a lat pull down machine. We've been using that for like, I don't know, over 100 years. 2 of you actually asked about this. You guys are kidding.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot more.
Okay, so go talk to the owner to just buy some pulleys so you can make a
$50.
lat pull down machine somewhere. Otherwise, you take 30 minutes out of your day, right? And you go to the Globo gym and you go do 3 sets of 15, and you're going to pay $20 a month, and it's going to help you save your neck and your shoulders and all that stuff. And while you're there, you can also maybe do a few cable crossover for your chest. And there's a few good exercises, maybe leg press. There's a few good exercises you can do in the Globo gym. I'm just asking you to take 30 minutes twice a week to do this. If you can't give me 30 minutes a week to protect your neck and your shoulder, that means you're not hurt enough. Because ask Brooke Ents what she thinks about that feels to fuck up their shoulders.
What color is the wall, coach? Black. Chalkboard black. Gray?
Not exactly. I guess he was black at first, but right now it looks like a chocolate.
The house is from like the 1600s, man.
It looks good though.
Yeah.
I know. I like the house. Looks really
cool.
good. That apartment looks awesome. Philip is asking, after your assessment video, I finally got internal and external torque in the lower body. Haha! And had a haha moment. Every movement is better now. Philip, I'm very happy to know that. Randy, are you going to put up any more books to read for the book club? Yes, Randy, sorry, you actually fell off the bandwagon on that one.
Yes.
I will do that tonight, actually, and the next one will be actually Chris Moore's book, the last one, from Chris Moore, my friend, from the Barbell Shock. That'll be the book, and then actually I have 2 or 3 books I want everybody to read. I just forgot to post it.
There's been a lot going on.
There's been a lot going on. That is not an excuse. I've been lazy on a bunch of stuff, and that's one of them. I need to structure my days better so I can do all the stuff I need to be doing.
The restaurant next on my list.
That is a good question.
Yes, it is. I have a few. We're going to be heading to Madrid. I've gotten mixed reviews on 3-star Michelin restaurant there because the chef's kind of snooty.
So he's probably French. Who cares?
Probably, most likely. You know, he's Spanish. He's from the Basque Country. Close enough.
No. If he's Basque, he's not French. Man. I don't care where he's from. He's Basque. That's a whole different thing.
No, we'll be in Bruges. In Bruges, I think we're making reservations at a couple of the restaurants.
We're gonna go to a chocolate restaurant. I asked him to find me one where the entire list is just chocolate. That's a tasting chocolate list. That's all I want. Is in Belgium. We're gonna do a chocolate tasting. It's gonna be awesome. My leanness is gonna go away, but I don't care
Very
for chocolate.
quickly. I'll keep you guys posted.
Yeah.
I always crack my back.
Why?
Left shoulder is high.
Amicosa, I always crack my back. I don't know why. And my left shoulder is always higher. I feel like it's an imbalance somewhere. Teres major is not super, I think, but I don't know where to start. Any suggestions? Yes. If your left shoulder is always higher, it usually means the latissimus dorsi or the teres major on the left is not developed, so you're looking for tension somewhere, and that somewhere ends up being your trap. This is something I see in the entire CrossFit world, for example, and a lot of women, because they don't have as much upper body strength, right? And I mean, although in CrossFit it's not true anymore, but
It's getting better.
and so a lot of times, because you have to find tension somewhere, right? If you can't find it in your lats, either major or latissimus dorsi, people will find them in their traps, and that's why they have tendency to shrug on one side. So that means you need to build the teres major and the latissimus dorsi, depending which one is not working, and so that means lat pull downs. And rope pulls and anything that activates the lats versus dorsi or the teres major. So it can be overhead yoke carry with rope pulls, with lat pull downs, with barbell rows, with all the good old body. Just I need Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Look the lats.
Exercises.
Go to the gym 30 minutes every day and do all of them. So every day you go to the gym, right? You're going to choose one exercise and you're going to do that for 30 minutes. And then you're going to do that, so all of them, so there must be at least 25 of them. So that's going to take you a month. At the end of the month, trust me, it's going to be a lot better. Now, do you have time for an assessment when you are in LA for my girlfriend?
Email day.
Oh, you finally convinced her to come see me, right? Cool. Yes, I do. We'll be there for the seminar. We'll be there for Coaches Week, so Monday through Friday, right? Email us at either at deia@strongfit.com or info@strongfit.com, and well, wait, my phone number still works. Text me. And when I'm in LA, I'll take a day from Monday through Friday to do an assessment on her, probably at 10 in the morning, any of those days. Okay? Just text me, my number still works. And then 310-733-8373.
Smart.
Because it's on the other phone, so I'm curious to see how many are going to text me. We'll see, it'll be the test. Just to see, because I'm following. And I'll do an assessment. And then it's okay, I'll send Deia on it. Deia, what's your number? So, Deia's number is... you can tell more about engage your pecs in overhead position.
I don't know what that means. You can tell more about...
Yes, engage your pecs in an overhead position.
That helps. Makes you stronger.
Well, I mean, can you press without engaging your pecs?
Can you? Yes, you can. Should you?
That's going to be hard. And then you're going to engage your pec minor. Maybe not the pec major, but you have to engage at least the pec minor. It's impossible to press.
Weren't we talking that the pec minor was now looking
is external torque, I think.
External torque, and then...
Yeah, that's something I've been playing with, so I don't know yet, right? I'm still playing with it, but I'm pretty sure the pec major is internal torque and pec minor is external torque, because it helps on the dip. And the dip, you can actually not engage your pec that much. You can use mostly the outside head of the tricep, which is external torque. So I want to test to see if the pec minor belongs to the external torque chain, but the pec major is not. So in overhead position, if you have the lat mobility, teres major mobility, you can definitely engage your pec in an overhead position. How? Just work on it. Go experiment. Work on it. CrossFit Jeremy R. Ever dealt with pain in the back of the knee when pause squatting? Oh, no, I did not.
No,
seems like a meniscus problem, but don't know for sure. I have a torn meniscus on my right knee since I'm 17 years old. It causes me no problems. Why? Because my legs are strong enough to keep the knee healthy. So the torn meniscus is usually, it's a big, it's like, don't do surgery on them. Don't just work your legs, man. If your legs are strong, the torn meniscus is very rarely.
Calf raises.
Yeah, that might be an issue. The thing again is, where is the pain? Because if we go toward the inside of the calf, that's internal torque. The outside is external torque. So it depends a little bit where the pain is. If we're talking toward the outside calf, or if we're talking toward the hammy, will change a little bit the answer. So it depends what you mean by the back of the knee, honestly. If it's like right in the middle of the knee, if that is at the attachment and insertion of the calf. I don't even know which one it is.
Yeah. That's what Joachim had.
Is that what Jochen had? Yeah, so with the calf raises, it helped a lot, yeah.
That's a good one with like Frank.
Frank, you talk about torque to create mobility, to express strength and power. How about the other way around? Stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. Yes, I agree completely. There is a relationship between the parasympathetic nervous system, and I think actually they're connected. I think the parasympathetic system and the external torque, and the sympathetic system is internal torque. I believe they're connected. Just like we have a certain neurotransmitter, like then we're going to go into serotonin versus dopamine, right? I believe the nervous system is connected to a certain torque chain. So I believe like everything that is power is connected to the parasympathetic system, and everything that is flow is the sympathetic system. It is that internal torque. So one will help the other, but you have to understand they are connected. So working one works the other. It's the same thing, basically. They are connected, and so you cannot have one without the other. So activating the parasympathetic system means working external torque, so it's the same thing. But now I'm getting into more complex stuff I've been working on lately, and so there you go. But that's now we're going into a more complex stuff, because then we can go toward dopamine versus serotonin and which one belongs which. And I have a long list of hypotheses about this, basically, which would be interesting because it would lead to dopamine is more task-oriented, so that would be external torque, right? Serotonin is more flow state, so that would be more internal torque. And so I believe there's an entire biological system that is built around both chains, internal versus external torque, that leads toward the nervous system, that leads toward certain neurotransmitters and how the entire body reacts to it. So then that would mean, like, imagine the consequences if that were true about how to, you know, when they say exercise is a drug, but then that means you could build a designer drug based on highs and lows. You know, if you look at things like that, based on which torque you could use, then you could affect serotonin or dopamine levels, which can help with it's Alzheimer's, I believe, they have problem with the dopamine levels. So I believe this is what I've been working on lately, and I believe that's the next stage, is to connect the chains to the nervous system. So that would be a pretty big one. I'm pretty sure I'm right on this too. Do you think it makes sense to use CrossFit and strongman exercises for mountain biker and other endurance sports? Simo Derbotoli. Yes, totally. Like mountain biker, for example, like the amount of stress you put on your joint is really, really high, right? Just like for any other endurance sport. So you're going to have to build enough padding around the joints anyway, that means muscle, to be able to take all that. Working on the correct torque, obviously, will make you more efficient at your sport. But on top of it, you understand the concept of homeostasis, right? The body wants balance. Anytime it's like an arch, right? The arch, two sides, they don't cancel each other, right? They create more tension in the middle. Every time the arch goes too much one way, everything collapses. So it's the same thing. The body wants us with a nice arch like this, right? So if you do just endurance, you are building the arch only one way, eventually it's going to collapse. So the body will not let you go past a certain level if you don't work your balance, in that sense. And so I believe including strength work is necessary for endurance athletes, just if it's not to have the body fight you back because you're just building the arch too much to one side. It's an idea of balance that I truly believe in, and that I see everywhere in biology. I think it's a very important part of it. So if you work only one side, the endurance, on one side strength, I believe the body pushes back. It does not let you make progress. So from a technical aspect, from an injury aspect, and from a biological aspect, I think, yes, you should do CrossFit and strongman. Yeah. Steven Santos, second question. In your deficit stiff leg deadlift video, you deadlift with your back rounded. No, I don't. But you have been taught to lift with straight backs. What is going on when you do this movement? How do I reconcile the idea of straight back as being right while the exercise is posted? Steven, I want you to go back to the video and tell me my lower back is rounding. Go on the video, tell me my lower back is rounding. What you are seeing is my thoracic spine rounded to a degree. Remember, I have thick erectors too. I have a big ass, so that dip in between. But look at the video, tell me my lower back is rounding. No, it's not. At the lumbar spine, I am not rounding. You might see my thoracic spine rounding slightly, which is perfectly safe. Thoracic spine is internal torque. It works toward eccentric and toward isometric. It's perfectly fine to bend at the thoracic spine. You cannot bend at the lumbar spine, but if you look at my video, you will not see me round my lumbar spine. And straight, what you think is a straight back is an overarched back, because that's what you've been shown, and that's why all those fucking chiros and bad chiros and bad physios are showing everybody, which is to be like this, creating a tremendous pressure on the L5 and saying that's a straight back. No, it's not. It's an overarched back. An overarched back is just as bad as a rounded back, right? I do not have a rounded back. I have a rounded T-spine, but at the lumbar spine, if you look, I'm perfectly straight. I can do that exercise, and I've done it, with 500 pounds without ever hurting my back. Why? Because my lumbar spine is not rounding. What you see is my thoracic spine, because it's heavy as shit when I do it heavy. You can go back to my Instagram for 2 years ago and you'll see me doing reps at 200 kilos with no problem whatsoever. Never will you see my lumbar spine round. A straight back is a neutral back, where this is not straight. This is overarch, and it creates just as much problem as rounded backs. James Counts. Guys, since having the aha moment with my right leg, weak muscle is a short muscle, and working on to improve that, I'm noticing and seeing the same patterns among a lot of people in the gym. Yeah. Yep. Welcome to our life. I'm guessing you guys are seeing the same in regards to the lats. Yes. That's actually what we've seen all across the world, is the same problem with the lat. And that causes people to look for tension in the traps, and that causes a shoulder problem. And then since usually people are more, uneven on one side, it's creating even more tension in one trap versus the other, and that's pushing against the spine. And that's what we've seen. We've seen a lot of bulging disc in the spine lately. In the last 6 months, we've seen 6. And that comes from in that sense, the lack of lat, either teres major or latissimus dorsi, that is causing to find tension in the traps. And that in turn, after causing problem in the shoulder, is causing problem in the neck. So whenever you see people saying your traps are as active as they should be, they have no clue what they're talking about.
Oh, trying to reconnect.
So
do you secretly get satisfaction from doing bicep curls at the CrossFit gym?
I totally do. So yeah, what I do now is I take kettlebells, I take their heavy kettlebells, and I do heavy bicep curls in front of everybody at the CrossFit gym. Yeah. That makes me so happy, you don't even understand. Mikey Show, 24B, 1551, A, 1375. I'm happy you remember. Magnus, what are your thoughts about strengthening?
It's good.
Strength is good.
Strength is very good. He's stronger.
Yes, strength. Okay, strong is good.
Strong is good,
yeah.
weak is bad.
Good to see you guys. Up. Hope you're well. Yeah, it seems like you go deeper into details now. Teres major lats. Yes, relation between upper body and middle. Yes, you also talked about the arch stuff as an epiphany moment. Can we hope to have a Coaches Week 2 in London this year? Yes, that's a good idea. Maybe we could do that when we go.
Why don't you just go to Austria? You're in France. It's like the same distance.
Yeah, by the way, why don't you come to Austria for Coaches Week number 2? Right? We're doing it in August. And if you want, you can come to the seminar in France. Come help me translate anyway, right? Come to the seminar in France, come to Coaches Week, and then just text me, we can talk about it. But come to the seminar, because I'm going to talk about a lot of that stuff. You can ask questions, and then I can show you all the stuff and everything. Come help me translate, that way you'll be part of the staff, okay? Come to the one I'll do in France. Okay? Viens en France quand je vais à Saint-Etienne, mais viens à Vienne après. Ça va être sympa parce qu'on va avoir un sommet là-bas, ça va être plus d'une semaine. En plus de Coaches Week numéro 1 et 2, il y a toute l'équipe qui va être là, ça va être sympa. Ok, viens nous voir. Sorry guys, it was my French moment. Minia de Angola. Hey, Carla. Assessment for me in the Netherlands this weekend. Not on the weekend because I got the seminar, but I can do it this week. Monday through Friday, I can do an assessment.
We have someone on Monday.
I got someone on Wednesday. She changed to Wednesday. If you want, we can do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday. Okay, can't do it the weekend because it's a seminar, but I can do Monday, Tuesday. That's Carla.
Yeah.
Monday,
cool.
Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday. Okay, just come and then we'll do an assessment. Any day at 10 among those days. Okay.
Pokey Andy. Hello, Andy.
Bernard Tapari. Hey guys, someone has flat foot. Does that mean they have weak glutes? Nah. And if that's the case, should they work on external torque? Okay, so external torque will work on the glute mid. Internal torque will work on the glute major, Dana. So you can't say working on external torque to work the glutes. If you work on external torque, you will only work the glute mid. To work the glute major, you need internal torque. So first of all, the glutes is 9 muscles. So it's always complex to talk about the glutes, but glute major is internal torque, glute mid is external torque. And flat foot has nothing to do with glutes, you're just born with it, right? I have very flat feet, I have a big ass. So, big glutes, I still have flat feet, but I work my way into creating an arch over time. It took me years and years and years, but now actually I have good solid arch in my feet, but that's why you see me barefoot all the time. That's why I train barefoot. I pounded the shit of my feet over the years, but I was born with flat feet and a big ass. So no, it's one does not mean necessarily. John Gallup, don't see much talk about good mornings anymore. Do you prefer stiff leg lifts? Why? Just curious as to why I don't hear about them much. I love the good mornings. The reason I like the stiff leg is because I want to do stiff leg in a internal torque, and the good morning makes people go into external torque more. So the good mornings are great, but it's on top of the T-spine, but toward the neck, so it makes you to go toward the thoracic spine, right? And most people do not have the external obliques to keep the weight on their thoracic spine properly, so they default to the internal obliques. Since they can use the external obliques, they go to the internal obliques. That shifts them to the external torque, which shifts them to the lumbar spine. So they end up doing an external torque, a squat pattern movement in a good morning, and they wreck their back. So that's why we switched to stiff leg, because we find it a lot easier in that sense to work the internal torque. That does not mean you can't do good mornings. It means you have to know what you're doing, and that means you're going to have to have enough obliques to do it correctly, and most people do not.
Yeah. Apparel.
Are you guys going to release any apparel soon? Got to represent. Thank you. Deya is in charge. Deya!
Apparel.
Yeah. So, Deya at strongfit.com,
yeah.
right?
Just
and then,
blast her with emails.
She doesn't get enough emails.
She loves emails.
Yeah, exactly.
Where I can learn how to figure out connection between system and torques.
Okay, how can I learn how you figure out the connection of system with torques? Nowhere. This is something I am figuring out at the moment. I came up with that one. I've never heard anybody. I've never heard anybody saying there is such a thing as an internal torque and external torque chain, right? They talk about it in an isolation type. Like you have internal torque for the pec, external torque for, you know, the glute med, stuff like that. No one that I know has linked them into chain. So that was the first step. And surely no one has linked them to the nervous system. So there is nowhere where you can read this. There's probably nobody else that's going to talk about it. Let's put it this way. I'm the only one that I know that talks about this. And so this is something I'm working on. I'm pretty sure I'm right. But if you're looking for proof of it outside, you won't find it. Let me put it this way, I'm trying to disprove it, and so far I haven't been able to. That changed our training completely. Yeah. That's why we've been doing all the stuff lately. That's why I actually leaned out a lot, doing my training has been insane based on that. That's why I don't know if you guys, some of you noticed, thank you, but I've leaned out a lot because we started to work the chains a certain way, and my body has responded like crazy. So I've been training every single day for hours, and no overtraining, no burnout. Nothing, and I'm getting pretty strong right now. Endurance is up. It's worked tremendously well. I've been training only either external torque or only internal torque, and my body has responded tremendously well. But the biggest impact that has had is on my nervous system. I do not get tired anymore. Like I sleep a lot less now, which is not good, but because I'm like this at night. When I work too much external torque, because that's a parasympathetic system, right? So I'm able to play as an arch of the sympathetic versus the parasympathetic system, and that has kept me from overtraining, even though I trained a lot. It's worked tremendously well, but I have not read about it anywhere. This is just something I figure out. But that's what I do, though. That's what the daydreaming is about. It's just me figuring out in my third room some issues, and that's lately what's come up to me, and I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. Kendall, Richard, what's your favorite thing about Julian? Julian, what's your favorite thing about Richard? He's my how, man. I'm the why. Without him, I would not do anything. He's the how. I'm the why. So he puts the work on all the crazy stuff. This is why I do the concrete calculation with chess in the morning. Like I'm a highly creative person. Like if you look at how a highly creative mind works, that's me to 100%. You'll find my picture next to it. But that means a lot of daydreaming. That means a lot of based on ideas and stuff like that. But so that means I suck at concrete calculation. I mean, I'm not suck, but that's not my thing. Whereas Richard is very good at that. He's the one who actually puts in the work whenever I come up with crazy ideas with how we're going to go forward. Because me, I just think about stuff.
Yeah. So it's good looking eyes. I mean, he looks like Ragnar. Viking fans, anybody? Like when he gets that crazy look in his eye, you know he's out somewhere. Yeah, just like that. Yeah, exactly.
I figured out something.
It's going to be good.
Yeah. The left eye goes up.
The tailored shirts. No, I think I mean, that's really the best quality. The good looking shirts. I really enjoy being able to push him out of the comfort zone, but I love how he has, like, I know that if I can't find Julian anywhere, depending on the time of day, I know exactly where to go. He'll either be at the exact same coffee shop, at the exact same burger place, at the gym, Globo Gym or CrossFit Gym, but I know exactly where he's at the time of day, and I think that dedication helps me become better, because that makes me want to get up early in the morning and kind of create a schedule of that sense, although I love to push him outside the comfort zone. So I'm like, hey, let's go here. He's like, but that burger place is really good. And I'm like, yeah, but
the one we went yesterday was really good.
Let's go try this out. So I think it's a good yin and yang system.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. If you had to choose only one exercise for the rest of your life for the obliques, oh, come on. One for the internal or external torque, which one would those be? Okay, so for the external torque, the one would be the ones we're going to release this week.
Yeah.
So you'll see. And internal torque, that would be, I guess it would be the one I did, the lower back extensions, the video I just posted. No, you know what? No, the Anderson squats. That'd be the one. The Anderson squats, I think, is the best way to do the internal obliques.
Yeah.
And external obliques would be the one we're going to release soon. Alejandro, what's the proper approach to fit position during sled sprint with people who tend to have supinated feet or hip hour rotation? Should I try to force a neutral stance? Good question. People tend to run in a car-bar stance. Yeah, but they run in a car-bar stance because they don't have the glutes, right? They want to go to our external torque because they want to use the glute med because they're not strong enough to push that sled, right? But over time, they're going to go toward internal torque because that's what you need to use on the sprint, right? So I found that usually over time, people will have their feet starting to go more straight so they can use the glute major. I would say make them do the sled again and again and again, and if after 4 weeks, 5 weeks to 6 weeks, they still do it, then you're going to have to go to DEFCON 2. Now, I mean, either you do isolation work with them to teach them internal torque, but you should, no matter what, start to approach, maybe not force them into a neutral stance, but explain that a neutral stance is a better position, a more efficient position to sprint, and maybe you start to introduce the idea very slowly in case 6 weeks from now you need to go to our isolation work because they're still not catching up. I would go with that. Tony, what if I can squat with an even stance? My left foot is always behind my right foot. That's where I feel comfortable. Now, yeah, but that's just because you feel comfortable doesn't make it right? Just mean you spend years doing it wrong. So anything you spend years doing wrong will feel comfortable. That doesn't mean it's a good idea, though. So, for example, you can snatch with your hands unevenly on a bar, right? Would that be a good idea? No, I don't think it would be, right? But yet you would feel comfortable doing that. We see it all the time. It's the same thing. Don't squat with an uneven stance. That means over time you have learned to be comfortable with the wrong position. So you need to work your way back into at least doing an uneven stance. So squat on a piece of plywood, right? Put lines on it and make sure you line up your feet correctly, and you'll see what doesn't work. And out of that, I'll give you an idea of what you need to work on the side to make sure things are even. I mean, might be true.
I don't know. They were arguing about something. Automatically says, I don't know.
Might be true. I don't know what you guys mean by.
They've been arguing.
Might be true. Who's being? Oh, I want to see the argument.
Oh, I don't know who started it.
How do you suggest we get people to stop blindly following the blind and knowledgeable, and open up to see the possibilities of what is being suggested by Strong Fit might actually be true.
One by one.
That's how we win.
Yeah.
We win one by one over time. So what you do is you don't go and tell people they're wrong. They have never won any argument ever. You don't go and you say, I have a better way. That does not work either. They think you're selling them something. What you do is you make your case in your own corner, right? You stay in your corner and you make your case. And if your case is strong enough, people will start to see the bright light and will start looking your way and go like, that's kind of interesting. And then they'll pick one thing, right? Just one thing, because they pick and choose like a fucking menu. And then they'll do rope pulls and they go like, oh, that kind of worked, right? And then something else will break and they'll come back and they'll go, let me try that other stuff. And over time, they'll start to see that actually you were not lucky, you just didn't find one great movement, then there's actually a principle behind it, that there's a reason behind what you do. And that over time will start to win you people. Don't tell them you're wrong, don't convince them that you're right, you're going to fail on both. Just make your case in your corner and stay there. So just be in your corner, stay in your corner, make your case. Over time, you will win. Because people, if your case is good enough, people will see the light. What you will not win is convincing people that you're right and convincing them that they're wrong. That never works, right? Stay in your corner, just make your case. Make a good case, people will always come to you. That's how you convince people. Last one, you once posted about you finding a way to engage your obliques tremendously. How do you do that and what is that? Andres, yes, that's the exercise we're going to post next week. It's actually an exercise I've been planning around for 15 years. And it was very weird because he engaged the obliques and engaged the traps as well. And I could not find anybody to explain to me why my traps were getting sore and pumped. I have an exercise for the external obliques or the internal obliques. So it's a very weird one, but I've been one that I've found by fucking around with stuff like I always do, like 15 years ago. And now that I understand the principles behind it, I understand why it works now. And so I'm going to release a video on it, and it's the best exercise I know for obliques, and in a weird way to activate your traps and even work your neck. So yeah, I know it sounds weird, it's very trippy, but it shows you how the chain works between certain muscles and a certain chain. So it's very interesting. We're going to release that this week. What do you do for constant knee pain when you lift? First, you go see a physio to make sure that you didn't damage tendons. Like you guys will understand, that's what physios and chiros are for, is when you get into a car accident, when you actually have trauma. If you have trauma, you have changed the structure. If you fuck up your knee, you damage a tendon, like severely damage a tendon. If you have severely bulging disc, because now it's too late, all that's what physios are for. And they are very, very good at that, and you should go see them when you have structural damage. Now, if the knee pain comes not from structural damage, but from improper movement pattern, then we have to see why. That's when I come in, so we come in, is to see what is the improper movement patterns. When you lift is a little bit of a... Do you have knee pain when you do bench press? So if it's when you squat or deadlift, we have to see if it's when you squat and deadlift, we have to see what the movement pattern is. A lot of time it's because people do external torque all the time, and that puts pressure between the femur and the tibia, and then that creates problem on the knee, but that depends a little bit. If it's an improper movement pattern, that usually means you're using the wrong torque for the movement pattern, either using internal torque when you should be using external torque, or vice versa. That's most of the time. If that what the problem is, what the reason would be is you using the improper torque for that movement pattern.
Yeah.
Mario, do you recommend a coach in Los Angeles area who uses your philosophy? Yeah, you can go to my old gym in Torrance. It was Strong Fit in Torrance, but now it's called Brazil Strength, right? There at my old gym is 2230 Amapola Court. That's where I opened my gym way back then. And I have two coaches there that took over. And they do, they were with me they studied under me for a year or two, so they know my philosophies. And they use all the sled outside and everything. And then we have some of my CrossFitters students that also train there. And so you will find good people there that can help you. Ederson squat is so good. Yes, I agree completely, isn't it, right? Tiffany, hi. Who's stronger on the deadlift? Richard is. What's your current PRs? I have not deadlifted in a very long time. By the way, Richard is always stronger at me, statically speaking.
Yeah.
And the press maybe, but
You're stronger at the press.
yeah, but that's
Well,
because you have
barbell
the
press.
fucked up
Yeah.
left side. Well, my strict press was a bit higher, but that's because his left side of the structure wasn't good. But statically speaking, he's stronger. I'm better at moving, but he's way better at static.
Go to that one at the drags. Just putting it out there.
Okay, I will do your carry on you want. It's all good. So my current PRs, I have not deadlifted heavy in such a long time. I don't deadlift heavy anymore. I only do it for over 6 reps over 6. Right now, honestly, I don't deadlift anymore because I mostly stay away from the barbell. All I know right now is I can do Anderson squats close to parallel with 200 kilos for like a set of 4, I think, and I can deadlift 500 for 6, I think right now, something like that. But that's good. I'm not working on it. I'm working mostly on my obliques right now to make them to fire the way I want, and that's all I've been working on really. I mean, usual strongman stuff and a lot of bodybuilding work to try to find torque and stuff like that, but it's mostly oblique work. When I'm done with the obliques, I'll go back and see if I can apply to the deadlift, because if I can pull anything over 6 without really training for it, then that'll be a good sign that the oblique work is working. Wait, there was something about the...
We kept talking.
Yeah, there. Maybe work with try HRV with nervous system and torque, it's a start. No, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I'm just working on it my way, which means I'm working out through a logical, process in order to disprove the stuff and everything. I know I'm right. It's just I need to prove it, right? So in order to prove it, I need first to try to disprove it. But I've already went through the entire process in my head. I know I'm right. But people will ask me to prove it, and so I need to come up with the data. But I know I'm right. So I've already done all this. I know exactly where I stand with this. I know I'm right. And I know it affects neurotransmitters as well. And so I know we can use that for a number of things past just the training world. But yeah, I'm right. Which he says, do you recommend for people whose lats are unevenly developed? You guys are fucking with me. It's not possible. You guys are trying. Lars, so you're going to do lat pull downs with handles. That will work, right? Because you do one arm versus the other. Instead of a bar, right? You're going to do rope pulls. Why? Because rope pulls makes you pull left and right arm, right? So basically what you need to do unilateral work on the lats. So you're going to do dumbbell rows, and you're going to do rope pulls, and you're going to do lat pull down with handles and not a bar, right? Try that 3 exercises, get really good at those, play with those, get really good at it. Trust me, your lats will start to develop. By the way, we need teres major, we need latissimus dorsi. So the dumbbell rows will work latissimus dorsi in external torque, and then you're going to do lat pull down with internal torque, engaging your pec to go more toward the teres major. So you can even use external torque as a pull, but on the way up, you're going to go internal torque so you can activate your chest and your teres major as much as you can, getting a full stretch, and then you're going to go toward external torque, but not before. So I want you to develop teres major and latissimus dorsi on both sides by doing unilateral movements. How should I begin with dealing with wrist pain in the snatch? The Maverick, where it? Because he's saying this one.
Yeah, but
how should I begin with dealing with the wrist pain in the snatch? Okay, so most of the time, the wrist pain in the snatch, not always, but most of the time, comes out of the fact that people bend their wrist so much on the snatch. And why do you bend your wrist so much on the snatch? Because you're going toward external torque. That means you're trying. This is part of the external torque. This is part of internal torque, right? This is internal torque, this is external torque. So if you go toward external torque, because you've been taught to do this and raise your shoulder, that means you're going to try to activate those muscles, and you'll notice people that go external torque too much always bend their wrist like this, right? And so when you bend your wrist like this, it's going to crush it on the bar. So that can, I've seen that to be a reason very, very often. Most of the time when you start to develop the mobility for the internal torque, the pec is activated properly, teres major, all that stuff, people will start to not be here but be there. They go toward that muscle, short head of the bicep. It will fix the wrist naturally. So we have to see that on one side, and then we have to see also the imbalance left versus right. Because if one side is up like this and the other side is down, naturally the side that is down, the wrist is going to get crushed. So in that sense, you would have to look on the side that's getting crushed if you have enough lat on that side to make sure things are even. Or are you shrugging on the other side too much? So look at the difference left versus right, to see if there's an imbalance in the way you catch the snatch, because that would wreck the wrist. Otherwise, look at which torque you're using. If you're using external torque for the snatch, you will go toward the wrong muscle and you'll end up bending your wrist like this too much, which can cause wrist problems. Without seeing you, that's all I can tell you for now. I don't know how you do snatch with the barbell, but you will put in ITD and ETD train. Think about nervous system. Sorry to bother you with this. No, you don't bother me. I love talking about the nervous system stuff. Yes, I do have. Okay, so we tried to have external torque days and internal torque days, and that wrecked us. It was too much. So when I did external torque days, I couldn't sleep. And then I was super tired the next day until internal torque, and I got burnout fast. Like I felt tired. I felt really tired. So we tried that. That didn't work out too well. It was too much. Right? The arch was not being balanced, and so it took us too much one way and then too far the other way. So what we noticed works better is to mix that on the same day. So I do external torque first, and then I do internal torque for cardio after. As a Metcon, whereas Richard has been playing as mixing external torque and internal torque in the same superset. Me, I do supersets of external torque, and then I do supersets of internal torque. And so one for strength endurance, right? Whereas Richard, I've been playing with mixing the two together. I'm not there yet. I'm still doing supersets of one or supersets of two, but both in the same session. If I do only one chain, I get wasted tired. Fast, so that has not worked well. So I have to do both at the same time. Maybe it's because I'm so new at it, I don't know, but so far it hasn't worked well to separate them. The Maverick, yes, overhead below parallel is painful on my wrist only.
Yeah, it's a catch.
Okay, so it's the catch. Okay, so you're probably catching in external torque when you should be catching in internal torque. I will have to see you move, man. We're coming to Austria to meet you. Looking forward to it. Cool. Awesome. See you guys soon. How do I turn on my lats?
Lat pull downs.
Lat pull downs, rope pulls, all that stuff. Do I need a rope for rope pulls? I'm working on it, but so far, yes. Can you, Hannah is asking, can you make a video for the harness bear crawl sprints? I didn't find one.
On Instagram.
Yeah, we have a lot of them on Instagram. I'll post one on the template, but we have a lot of videos of us doing harness bear crawl sprints. On Instagram we do, maybe, don't we on Facebook? At least we have on Instagram for sure.
We'll do one on Facebook. We should be getting our harnesses soon.
Yeah, okay, so we'll do one and then I'll die. It'll be awesome. Christy.
We're going on minute 30, coach.
That's okay. Christy Bauer, what strength exercise do you recommend for impingement in the shoulder? Having pain in bicep, can't lift arms straight up. Client is also doing openers and trying to strengthen the lats, rear delts, and mid lower traps. Okay, if you strengthen the rear delts and the mid lower trap, you are working external torque. I hope you know that. Because the openers are mostly toward internal torque. So the openers cannot work the rear delts. So I will have to see how you're doing this. Having pain in the bicep, can't lift arms straight up. Impingement in the shoulder, is that a bicep tendon problem, or is that like I can't do an assessment online without seeing someone? Like at least I will need at least a video. I'm sorry, I would love to help on this, but I don't know enough of that. I can't do an assessment online. I would say do the bicep opener, do the shoulder openers, see which one you cannot do. That should tell you where the problem is. If you can do shoulder opener but not bicep, then it's not a shoulder impingement in the sense of it's a bicep tendon issue, or vice versa. I'm sorry, I can't do an assessment online. I need to see the guy or the lady move in front of me to be able to do that. Bowen Storm. What would be your favorite way to train the aerobic system?
You've been on the elliptical.
Yeah, I've done the elliptical. It depends if I'm trying to achieve a flow state, right, which I guess would be the aerobic system. Yeah. Although, I guess if you work endurance, yeah, it depends. I mean, when does the aerobic system? I guess the superset don't count. So it would be a flow state. So either doing jiu-jitsu or going with a good music on the elliptical machine and just trying to get into flow state. What matters to me in that case is I'm trying to go internal torque. Is that I am not task oriented, so I don't go for a number of minutes or I don't go for a certain number of miles because I have a tendency to put me in the wrong nervous system behavior. So I go into a non-task oriented activity where I can try to go into a flow of things. You know, when you run and things feels good, I don't like running that much, so elliptical machine for me honestly works great. Let's go trainer. External screw on row pull, tension rear delt teres. Hinge, pull, bend, row pulls. External screw on row pull. No. I mean, you're supposed to, on a row pull, unless you go very heavy, right? You're supposed to have tension in the teres major, but I mean, not really the rear delt. You're supposed to have tension. So when you do the row pull, right, for distance, that means it's more like a flow. We want internal torques, we want the pec, the short head of the bicep, and we want the teres major. If you feel a tension in the latissimus dorsi or the rear delt, or the long head of the bicep, that means you're going toward external torque. That means you are either using too heavy or you are trying to find your strength in external torque when you just should work your internal torque chain, right? So make sure you stay within the internal torque chain. Hinge and pull, bent over ropes, row pull, all of those are internal torque. So you are, the bent rows are external torque, but then we want to go heavy, right? If you use the latissimus dorsi, you want to go heavy, external torque. If you use teres major, you want to go flow state, so more reps, and internal torque. That's the difference. So row pull is more flow state, even though you move your hands fast, right? So you're going to go internal torque, you're going to go teres major and short head of the bicep. Timothy, I'm headed to the DO seminar later this year. Yeah. Do you cover how you program in the seminar? Yeah, to a degree. I mean, the program is, yes, we do. We do, to a degree, we do. Set reps and greens. Your thoughts on Fred Hatfield and his work following his passing this week? Yeah, I'm very sorry to hear he died. Dr. Squat, that was a shame. They were all very much into powerlifting, so it's a very specific field, right? I'm more of a generalist in that sense. I like to link patterns together. So I like to, so for example, like a lot of his work was on the back squat, right? I think there is no such thing as a back squat. At least, let me rephrase, there is no such thing as a back squat in nature. Because in nature, you will never find power below parallel. I can't find a movement where in nature you would try to find power below parallel. So to me, it's a hinge going into a squat pattern, so it's a man-made movement. And the barbell is not a functional thing because it takes you, the weight is outside of the hands, bends the bar, so it takes toward external torque. So again, it's great for above parallel, but going below parallel forces you to go toward internal torque. And that's a man-made exercise on a man-made instrument. And I don't think it's functional at all. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing barbell back squats. I just think it's not a functional movement, and it's a man-made one. I think I can do more with better objects than this one. So I know a lot of people are going to get pissed because they think the back squat is the greatest exercise of all time. What I would ask them very simply is why. Because if you say, then they all say, well, force, power, power equals force versus, I'm like, okay, then why not do a back squat on a machine at the gym then? Because I can use more weight. And then tell you, because it's not functional. Well, okay, and then in that case, the barbell is not functional. Then let's do it with a back squat, with a sandbag. And they go, yeah, but I can use more weight on the barbell. I'm like, okay, then let's go back to the gym and use machine because I can use more weight there. So I would just like for people to explain to me why is the back squat the king of exercise, because I don't get it. Começar o curso no esquerdo no sábado. Vai começar 9 horas da manhã. 9 horas da manhã até 6 horas da tarde, sábado, domingo. E o Coaches Week vai ser de 9 da manhã até 3 horas da tarde. Sorry, that was my Portuguese moment. Instagram, okay, thanks. I'm on the powerlifting program. I know. I've seen that. That's what I was saying. I will put it on the template, I swear. And I love it, but sometimes I hate you guys a little bit. I hope so. If you don't hate me, you're not doing it right. Yeah, you should hate me. What do you mean a little bit? You should hate me every time.
Let's do a video on that. On the bench press next.
Oh yeah, okay. What is a proper technique for bench press? I see a lot of stuff about breaking the bar to engage the lats, but that seems to do lower the bar, but wrong for the pushing up. MX, you are completely right. It is the right way to lower because we want to break the bar to do external torque, to engage the latissimus dorsi on the way down, but the second I'm on the chest, I'm going to push to my teres major, that first part, and then switch here and then from there press into internal torque. So we're going to do a video on it. The lower is external torque. You can even use so either you're going to use teres major to lift and then switch, or you can use your legs and stay in external torque up to here, and from there you're going to have to switch to internal torque anyway. So it's a little bit of a thing, but basically that's what the sticking point is. Usually it's when you try to switch toward internal torque. That's where all the triceps here comes in and all that stuff. So we're still working on how to go from external torque to internal torque, and when it happens, because it depends a little bit on the technique. If you drive with the legs, you can go external torque first, then internal torque, or if you're going to go teres major, then it's internal torque right away. Again, the bench press is a man-made movement, so I believe there are different ways to do this depending on the technique and using whatever fits you better. But no matter what, from here up, it's going to be internal torque, right? So breaking the bar does not works on the way down, but will not work on the way up. What factors should one consider when picking a sandbag weight to start out with? It depends what you want to use a sandbag for, right? If you want to do more like a cardio workout, like a 400-meter carry, then 40 to 50 kilos will be fine. If you want to squat, I would go from 50 to 100 kilos, and same thing for pressing. And then if you want to get really strong, then you go over that. So it depends what you're trying to do with it. Set reps and greens. Following CrossFit Theme seminar in October, we spoke a lot about the gaps in CrossFit athletes. What about bodybuilders? That's a very good question. Bodybuilders are quite good at working all angles, right? Yeah. They're very good at that. They do a lot of supinated, neutral, and pronated grip exercise. They use dumbbells a lot. They use all that stuff. So I believe they're very good at that. The one thing I would say they're not doing is two things. First of all, they are not using the body as a unit. They do too much.
Oh, this is about to end. You have 2 minutes.
Oh, wow. They do too much isolation work and not using the body as a unit enough. Even when they do squat or stuff like that, they try to really isolate, right?
They don't deadlift anymore.
They don't deadlift anymore. They don't really squat anymore. I mean, like, well, Ronnie Coleman getting fucked up is not going to help anybody on that. Right. But I believe they don't do. So they do a lot of isolation and they don't work the body as a unit. So that's a weakness, right? They don't do any of the conditioning in the sense of like the carries and stuff like that. And I believe the rep scheme is always the same. They don't really go for strength and everything, so I believe they always go toward, they're trying to use certain muscle with the wrong chain. For example, they try to work their rear delt, which is external torque. They do it for high reps, which will lead better to internal torque. So I believe some of the rep scheme makes them work certain muscle in the wrong chain. But usually their training is very balanced. Outside of, they don't do carries, and most of them now have a tendency to stay in the same rep range. I believe in the 70s, for example, bodybuilders were more balanced even because they did a lot of powerlifting, they did Olympic weightlifting, they did heavy, and then they did lighter, and then so they were. I think the heydays in the 70s of bodybuilding really was a good way to train. Like that's how Bill Kazmaier trained, all those great guys trained doing that, and I think they are doing very well now. It's very specialized. Steroids haven't helped, obviously, but it's very, very specialized, and the rep range they're using do not fit the chains, especially the external torque chain. So that's a problem.
So say goodbye and we'll come back.
Okay, so
we'll say goodbye. We'll come back next week.
Already?
It's been over an hour and a half, Coach.
Okay, well, I guess we sorry we haven't answered everybody because it's about to come off. So sorry, Instagram is going to shut us off. I got 8 seconds.
We will
like come back next week. I promise. We'll do more Q&A, and we'll see you guys soon.
Bam! Game over.
Okay, so we're done on the Instagram. Guys, we're gonna stop here because it seems I've been talking for too long. Like the computer is coming off, my phone is coming. No, I never talk for too long. Thank you for the recent instructional videos. Happy you guys like them. And so we will come back soon. I will start the vlogs again. I've not been good at this at all. There's a number of things I need to do better, obviously.
We're doing good though. We're posting a shit ton.
Yeah, we've been good.
Go to YouTube.
Yeah, we have more on YouTube, and we're posting more vlogs and stuff like that. I need to do longer vlogs again, but just there's been a lot happening. I'll explain. So we will come back soon, most likely in 2 weeks, during the weeks of the...
We can be in Madrid.
When we're in Madrid.
Yeah.
So we'll go back, we'll do another Q&A in 2 weeks. Okay?
Cool. Later, guys.
See you guys.